Hi everyone, this is a video about the poem Before You Were Mine. It won't tell you everything you need to know about the poem, but it will give you a few key meanings, methods, and possible poems to compare to. For this video, you're going to need coloured pens, a highlighter, and of course your own copy of the poem. If you don't have your anthology, there's one linked in the comments below, or you can email me to ask for one. So pause the video and make sure you have those three things before you begin. Okay, welcome back. Now I need you to turn to page 19 of your anthology to find the poem Before You Were Mine. I'm going to tell you a simple summary of the poem and I want you to write it down. So the simple summary is that the speaker looks at a photo of her mother and imagines her life before the speaker was born. Pause the video and write that down. Okay. If you want to add another note to that simple summary, it's that in this case, we can assume that the speaker is the poet herself, Carol Ann Duffy. She's written and spoken a lot about her admiration for her mother, so we can assume that in the poem, the speaker is Duffy herself. So now you have a simple summary. I want you to pause the video and read the poem all the way through. Okay, welcome back. We're now going to go through the poem stanza by stanza and look at a few of the methods. We're going to start with the title and stanza 1. So in the poem's title, there's two things that you probably should focus on. The first is that the title is called Before You Were Mine. This word you is an example of something we call direct address. So Duffy is speaking directly to her mother, shows a desire to connect with her or be close with her. Second word that's important in the title is this word mine. That word is something we call a personal pronoun, and it shows that the speaker, Duffy, feels a real sense of ownership and pride over her mother. She's not anyone else's mum, she's hers. Pause the video and make those two annotations. Okay. Next up, we start the poem with a memory, and we can assume that this memory has been sparked by looking at a photograph. The first stanza offers us a snapshot of what the mother was like as a young woman. In that memory or in the photograph, the mum is there with her pals, her friends, Maggie and Jean, and the three of them are bending from the waist, hugging each other and laughing. You can see that in the word shriek at the pavement. The most important thing in this stanza is a specific reference that Duffy makes to her mum, a specific comparison, and that is here in the word Marilyn. Now I'm going to tell you about that, and I want you to pause the video and write it down. So this metaphor of the mother as Marilyn refers to a movie star called Marilyn Monroe. Think in your head if you've heard that name or you've seen that woman before. If not, pause the video and go and Google her. She's a very glamorous movie star from the 1950s, and it emphasizes the mother's playful and glamorous persona as a young woman. Remember, this memory sparked by the photograph is happening 10 years before Carol Ann Duffy is born. So when the mother is still a young woman, living her best life and enjoying her time with her friends. Pause the video and note down any of those annotations if you haven't got them yet. Okay, stanza 2, the speaker emphasizes that she's still not yet born. The mum is still a young woman out and about, living her fun, youthful existence with her friends. The specific memory in stanza 2 is of the mum in a ballroom. So that's like a nightclub. And we hear in the ballroom that there are 1,000 eyes watching the mum. Now that would be what, 500 people with 2 eyes looking at the mum, which even if the mum was really beautiful and even if the ballroom was really crowded, is a little bit unrealistic. So it sounds like the speaker is exaggerating deliberately. And we'd call that device hyperbole. So hyperbole is when we exaggerate for effect. And that hyperbole in the line, the ballroom with the 1,000 eyes, is emphasizing the mother's popularity. She was a really glamorous, interesting woman that other people wanted to look at. And also in this stanza, we get another reference to film. So we had the reference to Marilyn Monroe, who was a film star. Just look at the stanza and try and find the line that links to film. So you've probably found it here, Fizzy Movie Tomorrows. And this reference or allusion to film conveys a sense of possibility in the young mother's life. So there's lots of stories, there's lots of endings that the mother could have had. That again emphasizes how glamorous she is, but also the sense of possibility. Towards the end of the stanza, we get a sense that the mum's also a bit of a rebel, because her ma, so that is Carol Ann Duffy's grandma, is waiting on the doorstep with a hiding, so a beating, for her mum, probably because she's late home from this ballroom, from this nightclub. But the mum doesn't care, she reckons it's worth it. So pause the video and make any annotations that you need to there. I forgot something. We know that in the poem, Carol Ann Duffy is speaking directly to her mum. And if you notice, there's a word in this stanza that means mother, which would be the formal way you'd refer to your parent, but it's not, she doesn't write mother. Find the word that means mother. Yeah, you'll see here, your ma. And that's an example of something we call colloquial language, and it gives the impression of like an intimate conversation between close friends. We'd use colloquial or informal language with people that we're really close to. So Duffy is speaking to her mum like a friend about this memory of the ballroom and the trouble she got into for going there. So next stanza. Duffy starts by asking her mum a question, just to stress the idea that her life was much more fun, much more free before Duffy arrived. And the arrival of Duffy as a baby, the fact that the subject, the mother, becomes a parent and her life changes a lot, is shown in an interesting way in this line. The decade ahead of my loud possessive yell was the best one yet, eh? So it's that question there, but the words Duffy uses to describe her arrival as a baby are shown here, loud, possessive yell. And those adjectives, loud and possessive, emphasize the disturbance created by the speaker's arrival. It's not a cry or a shout, it's a loud, possessive yell. If you're possessive of something, you're demanding their attention, you want them to notice you. And that's the impact that Duffy as a baby had on her mum's life. And that is developed later on in the stanza when Duffy remembers herself as a little girl putting her hands inside her mum's high heels. So she's playing with her mum's shoes. And that image of her as a child with her hands inside her mum's high heels emphasizes how much the mum's life has changed since the arrival of her baby. So she doesn't now have the opportunity to go and wear high heels and go out dancing. They're now just a toy for her little girl to play with. And that's also shown by this word relics, because relics are, the meaning of that is an object from history. So the fact that the shoes, the high heels are now relics means the mum's got no use for them. She's got to focus on being a responsible, caring parent. She's got no time or money or energy perhaps to go out and party. But still, we have that colloquial language, which gives the impression that this is a really intimate conversation between them. So after reflecting on what the mum's life is like, now she's a parent, Duffy introduces the memory of her mum's ghost clattering towards me over George Square. Now, that's not literally a ghost like running over George Square, which is a place in Glasgow. That is just the image of her mum through this photograph being really, really vivid. And the movement of the ghost or of the image of the mum is the verb clattering, which suggests that the memory is a really vivid one. It's really clear and dramatic. To clatter is to move loudly. And she reflects on that with a question, which is, your ghost clatters towards me, and I see you really clear under the tree, with whose small bites on your neck, sweetheart. So she's remembering again her mother as a young woman, with this time with some love bites on her neck, emphasizing that before she came along, she was a slightly rebellious young woman. But it's all phrased not as a criticism of her mum, but in a kind of colloquial, informal way. She calls her sweetheart. And that shows that she's not judging her mum for being a bad parent. She doesn't think that she's been irresponsible. She admires the fact that she had this fun, free life before her daughter came along. The final stanza begins with a reference to a dance, and that dance is the cha-cha-cha. It's a Cuban dance that's really high energy. You might want to pause the video and have a look for some YouTube clips of the cha-cha-cha. But the important thing is that in this stanza, the focus shifts from Duffy observing her mother in memory to her imagining herself being part of that memory and being with her mother in the memory. So the fourth stanza shifts the focus from the speaker observing her mother to participating in the memory. So you might want to pause and write that down. And as I said before, that memory begins with a reference to a dance, and the dance creates a really joyful and celebratory tone. So even though she's remembering her mother, probably because the mother's died, this isn't a sad poem. This is a poem full of love and energy and admiration for her mum, for all that she was. And in the memory, the mum teaches her the steps to a dance on the way home from Mass. So Mass is a religious celebration, which is probably quite a serious occasion, but Duffy's mum in the memory turns it into a fun occasion and teaches her how to do a dance on the way home. And they're stamping stars on the pavement, and that could mean lots of things. They could be dancing on the cracks in the road, or they could be turning this wrong pavement, like a dull place within the city, into somewhere sort of fun and magical. But either way, the imagery of these stars suggests that the memory of her mum, any memory of her mum, has this magical, adventurous quality. And notice that in the last stanza, she says that even in the past, she wanted to be close to this memory of her mother as a young, bold girl. And the final line of the poem is written in the present tense. It says, "The glamorous love lasts." So we've got our present tense verb there, "where you sparkle and waltz and laugh before you are mine." As I said, this isn't a sad poem emphasizing that the mother's lost. The present tense suggests that the admiration and the memories endure or last. They carry on going, even if the mother's now died. And I want you to look at that last line. It's a really important one. And I want you to circle all of those present tense verbs that you can see in the very last line. Yeah, so you should have found sparkle, waltz, and laugh. And those present tense verbs, which are triple, you could also call them, emphasize the mum's main qualities to the speaker. And if you're a sparkly person, doesn't mean that you actually sparkle. It means that you're fun. We might say you're glamorous, you're free-spirited, you're warm, you give energy. And that goes also as well with the idea that she waltzes and laughs. She's someone who brings a lot of fun, joy to everyone around her. So pause the video and make any annotations there that you need to. Okay, so we've done some key meanings and methods within Before You Were Mine. And I've made a little mistake here. I've said poems to compare with Eden Rock. Obviously, this video is about Before You Were Mine. So what I mean here is poems to compare with Before You Were Mine. So what we need for our comparison is we need poems that have a memory about someone. Maybe we need poems about mothers. Maybe we need poems where the person being remembered is lost. or is no longer with us. So have a think which poems you could compare with Before You Were Mine. Okay, so the two that I've come up with are Climbing My Grandfather, because both speakers have powerful yet quite painful memories of loved ones. And equally, Follower is both speakers admire yet feel a bit disconnected from their parent. So those are two possible comparisons, but feel free to email me if you have others, or if you have questions about how and why we should compare Before You Were Mine to those two poems. Okay, so if you've missed any annotations, go back and make them now. If you have any questions about the poem, send me an email. I look forward to seeing your annotations.